Yeah, if I can jump in it, like I would argue that actually the purpose of building something like that, building Akira, is specifically to allow non-technical users to do work on Linux. That's like your position is basically like the majority of the Linux users are developers and designers, and Linux is seen, like the Linux desktop is seen as, oh, if I'm not a developer, I'm not a designer, I'm not like a tech nerdy person, I cannot use Linux. And that's a massive misconception that if you don't start like destroying these misconceptions and going against it, and we have to say, hey, Linux is actually approachable and usable by non-technical users. It will never change. Linux will remain forever that niche thing in like an ideal world, in a utopia that will never come. And Akira wants to give non-technical users the ability to, I don't know, I need a banner image, I need to create a thumbnail for my YouTube video. I don't have to just freak out and open GIMP and, oh my God, what is this interface? I don't know what to do. So yeah, we want to change that also. So it's going to be also for you, hopefully.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. I mean, there's the intro right there. Well, welcome. If you're watching and tuning in, I'm having a chat today with Alex, who is we're going to be talking about Akira. Akira is, I'm going to let him explain what it is and the scope of what it is, but it is a project that Alex, I would argue, I guess it's probably your brainchild, or at least something that you are very passionate about seeing come to the forefront. It's on Kickstarter at the moment. I'm going to reference that a few times in our conversation today, but I guess right here at the start, if you're watching this video on my channel, then definitely go and check out that Kickstarter and bounce back and forth as we're having this conversation about what it is and why it needs to exist, and the possible impacts that a tool like this could have in the open source software world. So first of all, big welcome to you, Alex. Thank you for agreeing to come and hang out and have a conversation about this project. It's always so exciting to meet the people and the faces behind these ideas and these projects.
Beautiful faces behind. Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a blast, and thanks for your time for like making this interview happen.
Yeah, no problem. If we start with the why, so when I'm looking at Akira as a project, you're calling it the Linux Design Tool. In your mind, when you first take this back to where it was the first idea of this project, why does this tool need to exist in your mind?
Yeah, sure. So the idea came probably like 5 or 6 years ago, and it wasn't like fully fledged idea. It was just like sort of a dream, like I wish I had something like that on Linux. And just to give a little bit of background, I've been doing design and development professionally for almost 13 years. I started when I was 18, now I'm 33, so 15 years I would say. And I was leaving, like I'm from Italy originally, and Italy, it's a weird country. Everyone thinks that it's a beautiful country and everyone is relaxed and we're all chill and we're having a great time, but it's not actually. It's really behind in terms of technology and innovation. So for me, being a developer and wanting to do something competitive and wanting to find a good job, it was really hard to find good hardware and at a good price. So I was always forced to buy a 2 or 3 years old computer. Also, when I was young, I was super broke. So I started using Linux because it was the cheapest and most affordable thing. And I started using Ubuntu version 8, like John T. Jackalope or something like that, when GTK 2 was a thing and all the crazy animation. But at that time, going into a digital agency or a design studio or a development agency and telling others, hey, let's not use Windows, let's not use Mac OS, but let's use Linux, it was kind of a joke. Everyone started laughing at me. It was like no tools were available compared to the professional tools like Photoshop, Illustrator. At the time, there was also Fireworks, or Flash was a thing. And like creating something in Flash in like Linux, it was Impossible, totally impossible. So since the beginning of my personal career, I started dreaming of like alternatives, good alternatives to do professional work on Linux. And through the years, a lot of amazing tools were kind of like able to do it. Were, I would say, competitive with compared to Photoshop and Illustrator. So they're like GIMP, Inkscape, Krita. It's an amazing digital digital painting tool compared to Procreate or something like that. But then like the environment, the user interface and user experience design workflow drastically changed, I would say like 5 or 4 years ago, when softwares like Sketch or Figma started to pop out, and Adobe recognized this thing, like Photoshop is not good anymore for web design or user interface design. So they started creating Adobe XD to try to compete with Sketch and Figma. And the Linux design world completely stopped, like stayed behind. We still have, like, how many years we waited for like GIMP version 2.10, like 2 years. Inkscape is not a version 1 yet. It's still version 0.92. We have really like amazing open source tools on Linux, but are not comparable, are not at the same level of proprietary alternatives. And if you want to be competitive and if you want to work professionally in a design agency, you have to use macOS or you have to use Windows. And that's a massive limitation. It's something that it's a privilege that now at my age, with my work and all the money that I make, I can afford. I can afford to be on macOS. But I remember when I was young, I remember when I started, I couldn't be competitive. I couldn't do the same things that other designers were doing because I couldn't afford those machines. I couldn't afford those softwares. Now everything is a subscription model, and so it's terrible. So that's why I decided to start building Linux applications. A couple of years ago, I decided to create, build my own custom computer and use it day to day to slowly transition from macOS to Linux, fully transition to Linux to do everything. And I started looking at the things that I was missing. So I'm missing this specific software. Okay, I'm gonna code it by myself. And I started doing that with an SQL client, then with a FTP client, and now what's missing is a UX design tool, which is gonna be Akira, hopefully.
Yeah, that's wow. So honestly, there's a big part of your story that I do identify with, in that my start in YouTube, my start in video, my start in graphic design was very similar, in as much as I was broke, didn't have the best hardware to work with, and Linux seemed to be the most efficient way of getting the most out of the hardware that I had lying around, and it seemed to be the only way that I could get a semi-professional feature set out of, especially a video editor at the time. That's what I was really looking for. And so the fact that you're wanting to bring something to this space, user experience design, web interface design, all of that, the fact that you're wanting to bring a tool that can bridge that gap and entice some more of the designer crowd, and just enable more of that on like in and through a Linux base is it's very exciting to me. And it's the kind of tool or project that up and coming developers all over the world would benefit from.
Yes,
and I think
so.
So in terms of this project, we've got some mock-ups of what it could look like. We've got plenty of details on the Kickstarter of features and stuff that you want to be adding to it, and you've got a bit of a layout of when you would be planning on doing these things and the breakdown of the costs and all of that. But if you were going to try and summarize a little bit of where you see the development cycle of this tool going, I guess the question everyone wants to know is, if successful, how does this play out? If at the moment, at the time of the recording of this video, I'm looking and we have 68 or 69,000-ish Australian dollar goal, and we've gotten about 21.5 of that. So we've got about 2/3 to go, with 12 days at the time of the recording of this video. So in terms of where you see this project going, if it were to be fully funded, go right ahead, how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, so finger crossed, I don't want to jinx it, but if it gets fully funded, we have a really super strict roadmap to release a fully functional first version in less than 3 months. And in less than 3 months, what you're going to have basically on these alpha version 0.1 or version 1, we don't know how to call it yet, but you're going to have all the basic tools in order to start actually using the app to generate something. So you will be able to use all the basic shapes, the native shapes, like generate a square, a rectangle, triangle, and blah, blah, blah. Edit those shapes, the attributes of those shapes, so the colors, the border, resizing, moving around, fully functional layers panel, and the ability to save and export your design in SVG and save that design with the native, I don't know if native is the right word to call it, but the default .akira extension, which will come with built-in version control for your design. So we're building this super crazy thing that it's super exciting, but basically whenever you save an iteration of your design or you change something, automatically we're storing a hidden Git repository in your design file, which will take care of basically recording your history of every single edit that you do. So it doesn't matter if your application crashes, or you send the file to someone else, or you do some edits and you forget to edit them or to save them and you close the application, everything is stored into your version control, so you can go back and recover pretty much everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, really simple, handling shapes, organizing your workflow with the layers panel, and saving and exporting. So the basic things in less than 3 months, if the campaign is successful.
Yeah.
If the campaign is not successful, who knows? Because no one, like, we are a team of 4 developers. I'm the creator, but I hired, that's why I'm doing the campaign. I want to pay the developers to work full time, like 8 hours per day, 5 days per week on this project. And if it's not successful, we have a plan B that we can, maybe if you want, we can talk about it later. But of course, the development time is going to be longer because these developers will not be able to work full time on all these features and the implementation, the canvas, and all these like other crazy stuff that we want to do. So hopefully, I'd say before the end of the year, we're going to have a working version 1 for sure. It doesn't matter if the campaign is successful or not.
Yeah, yeah. What I really love about the potential of especially a crowdfunding campaign is that it gives the potential crowd that are going to develop, that are going to benefit from this project, an opportunity to see it happen so much faster than most projects do happen in the open source world. And I get it, like there are so many great quality open source projects that are just ticking away in the background, that people are working out of the goodness of their philanthropic heart, and
Yes.
they're just making it happen. And yeah, like honestly, the opportunity that I think lies for so many, that's exciting for so many of us people that are open source enthusiasts, is being able to see something happen in such a short time frame and be able to benefit, the ecosystem as a whole. And I guess referring to ecosystem being, if I can quickly change gears to the store in Elementary OS, there is an ecosystem that's developing there where it is healthy to see people given the opportunity to fund the development of the apps that they like. And it's a shift in kind of what the open source community expects, There are plenty of people out there that donate towards the projects they love, and I'm pretty sure Linux Mint just hit a record with like $22,000 in a month or something of donations, which is insane.
Where are these people?
I know, right?
Let's go to Kickstarter Akira. Come on.
That's right. So it's, to me, I don't think it's about Linux people don't want to cough up the money to do it, because the projects that they want, they're going to make it happen. I think the exciting thing is just to see this happen on a much more accelerated time frame than what would normally happen for an open source project, especially one that's being built from the ground up with an ambitious feature set and all of that kind of thing. All that is to say, if you're watching this video, go check out the Kickstarter and see what you can do.
Absolutely.
Oh dear. So let's talk about in an ideal world, Akira is out and people are using it to take names in the design world, and it's building apps and it's being used. Just kind of let's play around with, what do you see are the different use cases for a tool like this? Let's give it a good kind of 2 years time. What do you see as some of the potential uses for a tool like this? What kind of impact do you hope it will have?
So the main impact, and it's something that it's the main focus in the background of everything, and it's why we're doing this, is just like basically removing the constant issue of, oh, I'm on Linux, I cannot open a Photoshop file, or I'm on Linux, I cannot work with a designer that has Sketch. We want to bridge that gap of you're missing something just because you're using a different operating system. That's the main goal of everything, and that's the main focus of everything. Plus all the features that it doesn't exist a design tool on Linux right now that has all the features that we want to implement, such as a complete support for SVG, ability to save, a version control to have your history, almost like infinite undo. Even if you close the project, you have infinite undo because it's all in the Git history. The ability to collaborate and export working prototypes, like animated working prototypes for the client, and having also a dynamically hooked cloud platform where you can share your design in order to send it to the client. All these things are a reality on macOS and Windows. You have a cloud platform baked into Sketch. Figma is a cloud application, basically. You have all these code, like visual collaboration tool where you can prototype something directly from your design, and you can animate some, like click a button, change the screen, or all this kind of stuff that are absolutely necessary in order to speed up your workflow. They don't exist at all. It's like there's nothing as not even close to on Linux, unfortunately, to what macOS and Windows designers have. So Akira wants to fill that gap. It wants to have all the professional features available on proprietary software on Linux. And I guess, I don't know, that's the beauty of open source. Since we launched the campaign a month ago, we already had so many ideas and so many contributions from other users that they looked at our source code and say, hey, why don't you do this way instead of the other way? And it's something that will never happen with proprietary closed software, because no one knows how they really work. No one knows how they're really doing things. Instead, with open source, like anyone, it doesn't matter their technical knowledge, can step in and say, hey, I really wish to have this feature. Why don't we code it together? And we can implement it. So I see Akira as a sort of like beacon of hope of professional level design software on Linux for many years to come. That's, I guess.
Ooh, I like it. I'll use that. Okay, so in terms of there are plenty of open source projects out there already, and I've already heard you kind of go into some of the features of what you're wanting for Akira. And I'm sure there are people out there wondering, but hang on, there's already X and Y app that can cover that, and maybe there's a third app over here that kind of does this other thing that you're talking about. And I mean, just to kind of name a few, you've already mentioned Inkscape. We've already talked about GIMP, and on your Kickstarter page, you know, you've got a question around how is it different from Inkscape or Glade or QML Editor, or, you know, there's a host of other tools that even from where I'm sitting, and I'm not technically inclined when it comes to the development and design of applications. I love design, like in concept, and I feel like I really appreciate great design when it comes up. But I'd be able to kind of create a mock-up of something, no clue what I'm doing beyond that. Having said that, I am starting to understand, I think, where the overlap of some of these tools exist and why you want Akira in this mix. But I'll hand it over to you. How do you see Akira distinguishing itself from all of these different tools that kind of already do bits and pieces of what you're hoping Akira does?
Yes, so that was kind of like the main problem on like convincing Linux users on why we need Akira, something like that. Because of course, if you think about the final product, and your final product is like a gray rectangle, you can create a gray rectangle in GIMP, in Inkscape, in QML. You can create a gray rectangle with pencil and paper, of course. So you don't need Akira to create a gray rectangle. You need Akira to create something way more complex that it's not possible right now with all the tools that you have out there. And so it's not a matter of what can I build with this tool that I cannot with the tools that I already have. The question should be why the workflow it's better with Akira instead of Inkscape and GIMP or Krita or whatever other thing. And the answer is always the same. These tools, like especially the major two design tools that we have, GIMP and Inkscape, are tools that have been around for 20 years. The code base is massive. It's really hard. They're really hard to maintain. They're really hard to tweak. They're really hard to develop on top of it. And you can see from the workflow, when you open GIMP for the first time, like how much time do you spend in going around with your mouse, going on rollover on an icon, or opening the 20th different sub-menu and trying to figure out where is this thing that I want to do? How can I switch this to another thing? How can I tweak the color? It's just the workflow. And what in the past 5 or 6 years in the professional design world happened with these new applications that came out, and they basically kicked Photoshop out of the design world. Now Photoshop is just for photo retouching. You cannot, like, it would be stupid to do UI design with Photoshop. They simply offered a better and faster workflow to achieve the same result. And like the most obvious thing is having multiple artboards on the same screen. Before in Photoshop, you design the home page, then you want to design the about page. So what do? Do you create another file with the same assets? Or do you group the home page in a layer group, then you hide it, and then you create the about page on another layer group? And then if you want to see them both, like, what's that? So before, like, multiple artboards on the same screen wasn't a thing, was never a thing. And then when it was introduced, now it's a must. You need to have this, because designers, they don't do one thing. They do 20 different screens with multiple iterations. The client is never satisfied about your logo or what you want or what he wants. They don't know what they want. So you need to keep producing stuff. And with Inkscape, as soon as you add one drop shadow to an element, it gets slow as hell, and it doesn't. It's not performant. It's not. You cannot wait 20 seconds every time you zoom in for the box shadow to re-render the entire canvas. It's just like it's like the approach is completely different. It's way more modern, the approach in Akira, and even if still GIMP's, I'm trying to not be negative or going against these already amazing tools that we have, but they're old. and they're hard to develop and hard to maintain. So we need something new. We need something modern, something fresh with a modern approach, and that's the main purpose of Akira.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, and I think you make a very good point in that if we are wanting to get to the point where design, web design, user experience design, app design, whatever, can be taken seriously in a professional scenario on Linux, then we need to have a tool that is quicker, more performant, it is efficient, suits the workflow of the work being done on it, and we're not having to create a bunch of backdoors or ways to get around doing things with the existing tools that we have. As amazing as the existing tools are, they are better suited to other tasks that are on the periphery, as opposed to having an app that its core business is creating user experience in a way that's actually useful for developers and a way that's useful for clients.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And the other thing that I would like to add is that I was really surprised by the questions that I got sometimes, like, why do we need another design tool? Like, a lot of users, they told me, like, I see that these like looks better, looks more modern, but we already have 4 or 5 different design tools. Why we need another one? And I will go back with my question, like, I will answer with another question, like, why users, like Linux users, care more about another Linux distribution instead of another design tool or another application? Like, how many Linux distros we have out there, how many desktop environments we have out there, how many, it's insane. Like, we have hundreds of distributions that, like, they're still getting developed, but we have 4 design tool or like 4 video editors instead of Windows and Mac OS. How many design applications are available? Like hundreds. And no one complains when a new one comes out. Everyone is excited. Oh, this new one probably has a better approach, can do something different. It's like, so why do we have, like, I don't know, like a higher consideration of another spin of Ubuntu instead of a new software that could do something better?
I'll answer that with a simple customization. People get so hung up on customization, and once they realize you can change anything, they go and change everything. And I mean, hey, I've been looking at different Linux distros and desktop environments for it's coming up on 8-9 years now, and I'm still not anywhere close to getting through them all, and I never will.
No, it's impossible.
but we can leave that topic for another time. No, it is. I think the potential that a tool like this has to fuel great quality applications, great quality web design, not just for the open source world, but for the professional world. I think that's where we stand the most to gain. When it comes to putting out the final product of Akira, where do you see it living, or where do you see it? How do you see it being distributed amongst, as we've just mentioned, all of those Linux distros?
Everywhere. That's the short answer. We're starting right off the bat with daily PPA, where you can install basically any Debian-based distribution will be able to install it through the PPA. Then it's going to be available from the Elementary OS App Center, because of course that's the monetization part that we want to try to boost. And then as a Flatpak, so pretty much we're gonna start from day 0 with these. Like, from the first release is gonna be available on these 3 different like medium of distribution. We already have a contribution from Canonical itself, from Alan Popey, that it's like it works at Canonical. He created the YAML file to automatically package a snap package of the application, so it's going to be available also as a snap. And then we're talking with other developers to help us out to create an app image. And I think with that we basically covered everyone possible distribution ever. And that was like a really important thing for me, because not every it's still a matter of accessibility. It's still a matter of privilege. We cannot expect everyone in the world to be able to buy the latest laptop that can run the latest and greatest distribution that needs 2 gigabytes of RAM just to spin out the desktop environment. We want to package the application in order to be able to run on every operating system, on every machine. That's also why we decided to go with like native and not an Electron app, not a JavaScript application packaged for desktop. We don't want to ask users to have 32 gigs of RAM just to run 3 applications. Like even a kid in Tibet that wants to be a designer and has a crappy 10 years old computer with 4 gigs of RAM should be able to run a design application and start experimenting with that. So it's really, it's like, I don't know, it feels like I'm being a humanitarian or like a great guy. It's just, I want a really good design tool on Linux. It's just, I want to allow everyone to not go through what we both went through when we were young, not being able to have professional software and try to find alternatives that they're good, but they're not really great. And it's kind of terrible. So yeah, that's it.
No, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
So just as we kind of wrap up the formal end of this conversation, where can people find you? What other stuff are you involved in? Go ahead and introduce yourself at the back end of this video.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm pretty much everywhere. People are getting sick of me. So you can find me on Twitter at Alecad with 3D. Alecad. I'm also Alessandro Castellani on YouTube, which I do, like, I have a YouTube channel where I release weekly development design videos. I'm currently doing a tutorial series on how to build a Vala and GTK application. So I'm teaching users how to code Akira so they can contribute to it. Perfect. And that's it. I have a Facebook page, Alecad, as well. That's my website, alecad.com. And I'm also, if you're using Elementary OS, probably you know me because I'm the developer behind Sequeler and Taxi. And that's it, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think you've got a decent spread going on there.
Oh, yeah. I do, like, as my wife say, I do too many things. I should slow down, but no, it's okay.
But no, it's okay. Thank you for your time. And I'm hopeful, I guess, more than anything, for the outcome of this project, and whether it is the more condensed timeline that would be enabled by a successful Kickstarter campaign, or whether it is sort of the longer, long distance run. Either way, I'm excited to see the impact that a tool and a project like this can have. So thanks for spending your time here and wording us up a bit. And looking forward to seeing the outcome of this one.
Yeah, me too. And just to conclude and wrap it up, a lot of people were freaking out because the campaign seems like it's not going to reach the goal because we're really close. But no matter what happens, Akira will happen. It's something that we need, and we will work on it. And it doesn't matter. Akira will be released sooner or later, and we'll keep building on top. So
let's go for sooner.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully.
Excellent. Thanks so much.